to a new world of gods and monsters.
He's alive!
Here's Johnny.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, I'm telling you, brother, it's a frightful sight. See what goes on Halloween night.
And we are back for episode 19 of Why We Love Horror, where we're going to be talking a Ty West double feature this week of Pearl and The Sacrament. How you both doing today? Or
doing
tonight?
well. How are you?
I'm also doing well. This is a great week. You know,
Yeah.
You know, I always like to I don't want to spoil anything, but you know, this is one of the great weeks as opposed to like, oh, I can't believe I watched it. This is great.
Yeah, this is definitely a fun week. I'm glad that we picked this double feature. I had seen both previously, but we watching them again, fucking perfect. Yeah, I guess let's get right into it. Melissa, do you want to take over the plot summary for Pearl?
I want to be loved from as many people as possible. But truth is, I'm not really a good person.
I mean, I am wearing my Pearl gear today, so I'm totally down. Yeah, it's Pearl for Halloween, and I was like, I gotta pull this back out for this episode.
Oh, wow.
So, Pearl. It is a prequel to the movie X that came out earlier last year, directed by Ty West. And it is starring the magnificent, unhinged queen, Mia Goth. And it's definitely more of a character study film. It's very different in tone to X. And it's set in 1918, and it's about a woman who is isolated on her family farm, and she has dreams of becoming a star. And she definitely is on the brink of full-out insanity. And yeah, that's essentially like a quick plot synopsis without spoiling too much, I guess.
I like it. So I guess the first question I got to ask both of you is, did X give it to you?
Oh, yeah.
X gave it to me. X. I mean, you know, if for the people that watched X, you know, and you got to see I guess some people knew about what Pearl was coming, but like,
Yeah.
you know, they dropped the Pearl trailer as part of X, so it was like, you know, a real surprise to a lot of people that we were getting more, and then we know that there's going to be even more. So like, you know, Ty West has really like given us a lot with this like whole like vein of horror, and it's you know, it's pretty good. So I mean, I got no complaints really about X Pearl and, you know, the upcoming Maxine. I'm expecting a lot.
How about you, Melissa?
Yeah, I am so hyped for Maxine, and I do find it really interesting that this was almost like a joke. Pearl, they kind of just were like, what if we actually like developed the whole backstory and made a film about that character Pearl that was an X, and like they did it, and they did it really fucking well.
I wholeheartedly agree. I love also that they shot it simultaneously with X, so they got to use all the sets that they didn't have to rebuild anything. They didn't have to try to rematch anything. They just use the actual shit that they do, and they have a lot of Easter eggs when it comes to Pearl from X, which is awesome. I think it's just, I think what he's doing with these films is fantastic, and they just had casting announcements for Maxine with Kevin Bacon joining Maxine, which I'm very excited about that, because Kevin Bacon in a fucking horror movie I enjoy.
I saw it was already in post-production though. Like, so they must have it was actually a secret. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's been a secret the whole time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, let's get right into it. For the character study purposes of Mia Goth, John, what did you feel about Mia Goth in Pearl?
There's a lot. Like, honestly, like rewatching it makes me want to know. I want to know about what happens between Pearl and X, because like the way you know, I mean, without spoiling anything, like the way it even ends, like you're like, how do they get to X? Like, there's like it's such a lot happens in Pearl, and it's not like a lot happens in a bad way. It's a lot happens in a very intriguing way. Like her as a character, I think the casting of Mia Goth, first of all, is phenomenal, because like I would think if I came upon somebody that looked like Mia Goth, like I wouldn't suspect anything really dangerous about her either. Yeah. But the thing is, she looks that way, but you can tell throughout the movie that everyone that interacts with her gets uncomfortable. And that is just like a credit to Mia Goth, like, selling this character. Like, people quickly catch on, like, okay, but that's usually it's too late at that point.
How about you, Melissa?
Yeah, I kind of talked about it before in the Infinity Pool review, but yeah, I think just Mia Goth, the way that she looks, she has these big, doughy eyes, and there's like an innocence just with how she physically looks. So it's very interesting to see her obviously like totally flip that on its head with how this character behaves and just how she is as a character. And you could just, I think throughout the entire movie, especially towards the end, you can just feel the desperation. It's devastating, and just the repression and the rage that's like underneath the surface, just kind of building throughout the film. And there's definitely a part of herself that's like she's scared of herself, which I think is really interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, this was my favorite performance of last year, 100%. And so it was great rewatching it. Because we picked this, I was like, I gotta buy this movie because I'm gonna watch it again, obviously. And I enjoyed it even more on a rewatch.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point with the eyes. She definitely has those very expressive eyes, and with the credits of this movie, you really get to see it, which is amazing. You get to see those big doughy eyes, and you see that change in her from happy to, in a way, sad.
Honestly, yeah. An acting credit just for that scene. Like that
Yes.
scene that wasn't even really a scene.
Yeah.
If you really watch that scene in the credits, you're like, she is phenomenally talented because everything happens in that scene.
Yes.
Like, it's happy, it's sad, she cries, she's afraid, the whole deal. It's like an inside the actor's studio exercise. And what happened? It's great.
Which, let's just get right into the spoilers of this. How did you guys feel about the first part of this movie where it's her mom and her dad, and then her meeting the film projectionist?
I mean, I loved it. I do, like, if I'm being critical on the film, I do kind of wish we explored a little bit more with the relationship with both of the parents, and maybe just a better understanding of like how Pearl kind of got to the place that she is in now. You can kind of like pick up, you can fill in the pieces how you will, but like it is not as explored as I would like, but at the same time, I do like kind of the differences between her and her mom specifically, how like she's very like stern and like kind of a different generation, and very cold, kind of has these values of like, I'm going to work hard and I don't want any handouts, versus like Pearl's like this newer generation that has these dreams of being a big star, and like her mom just does not understand that in the slightest. I do think there's a lot of influence from Wizard of Oz like throughout the entire film. I was kind of trying to figure out on this rewatch, like what characters or like which characters from Wizard of Oz. I don't fully know like everyone, but I would say for the dad, he definitely kind of is like a scarecrow in a way, because he's like a facade of a person. But obviously we get a scarecrow later as well.
And how about you, John?
I'd say like the thing that I caught on like rewatching this movie is just like the father is like a prisoner. Like the father is a prisoner. Yeah. Like he's a prisoner in that house. He's a prisoner in his body. He is basically just like, and I think the dad knows what's going on even more than anybody else. And like hats off to him. With the performance he put on, I think his name is like Matthew Sunderland. Like it's actually for somebody that has very little to do, it's actually a really good performance. So there's that piece of it, and there's a lot of like, if you really look at the movie, there's a lot of themes that are going on. Like it's set during the influenza epidemic of 1918, so there's parallels to COVID. There's like masking. The mother has rules. She's making Pearl quarantine in the barn because she went into town. Yeah. There's also the fact that like it's still World War I times. They're German immigrants. They live on the outskirts of town. It's Texas. So you can imagine they're probably not taking too kindly to them, even to the point when her sister-in-law and sister-in-law and her mother bring the food over, the mother like rejects it and leaves the food outside. So there's obviously like there's class struggles, there's the disease, a lot, like I said, a lot to unpack in Pearl if you're actually paying really close attention to the movie. Ty West crammed a ton in here to see.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting with the time period set and with Mia Goth having to like seeing that her father is trapped in that house and that she was left by her husband when he went to the war, and she just wants that escape. So she tries to use it by doing the dance contest that she wants to go to, and seeing her come back to that house and her mom just going ballistic on her because of the influenza, because of leaving the house and stuff like that, and not letting her breathe in a way. You can totally see that she thinks that she is becoming her father, where she's just going to be stuck in this house forever unless she makes a big change. And her performance fucking is incredible in that scene where it's that night scene of her coming back from seeing the projectionist, and it's her and her mom's yelling at her, and the dad is just in the middle. And you just tell he doesn't want to deal with this shit at all, but he has to sit there, but he can't go anywhere. And she just wants out, and her mom is just telling her, her mom is finally just so fed up with it as well, where she's just going, okay, if you want to just go, leave then. Like, she finally gets to that point herself where she's just going, if you want to leave, just leave. Which brings us to one of the more brutal scenes of this movie where they get in that little scuffle and her mom gets lit on fucking fire.
Lit on fire and then put out with boiling water.
Yes!
So definitely saves the
Wizard
day.
of Oz.
Yeah.
Sorry.
How did you guys feel about that? That scene in general and the scuffle that followed it.
Oh, I mean, I thought it was incredible. She is completely unhinged at that point. I do think we have a few things to talk about that happened before that, but yeah, no, I mean, I think that's kind of like the boiling point, and that's why it adds to the weight of the audition. There's like so much writing on the audition the next day because it's like, holy shit. Like, she has no other choice. Like, in her mind, like, I have to, get this spot, or I'm gonna be stuck on this farm forever.
Yeah, she even like pleads with her mom, like, hey, listen, if it doesn't work out, cool, you win. And the mom still is such a hard line about how things are because, she came to the country, she sacrificed. Like the mother might have had dreams of her own, we don't really know, but you assume she did.
Yeah.
And she sacrificed, she always talks about the sacrifices she made. Like her husband got sick. He's basically sacrificed his entire life. He's just confined to a wheelchair. They work all day. She chose to marry. Her husband went to war. She's supposed to be doing her duty. It's about sacrifice, 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 sacrifice. But the mother's sacrifice actually it's not sacrificing to give her daughter a better life. She's sacrificing and turns into resentment, and she wishes that upon her daughter. And that is what sets Pearl off. Like when she finally realizes, like, oh, you're condemning me. You don't want me to have a better life. Like you're condemning me to your life. And then the fight breaks out.
Yeah, and just something to add really quick. I really liked the line, or like kind of the part of that confrontation of when she's like, I see what you do in private. It's like, holy shit, okay. Yeah. Like, because you kind of get this feeling that Pearl thinks she's pretty sneaky with what she's doing, but obviously, no.
Which, Melissa, you brought it up earlier, so we definitely need to talk about. The big thing with X was her, like, wanting her sexuality back and stuff like that, and seeing that these teens and young adults are actually getting into the porno business of that and wanting to explore that. And in Pearl, you see that with the Scarecrow, where she knocks down the Scarecrow and she has a little sexual experience with the Scarecrow. And it kind of enhances that with the whole bathtub sequence as well, that she gets into the bathtub and with her father. watching
Yeah,
it, which is very.
I felt bad for that poor guy.
Yeah,
I took mine to a wheelchair, and my daughter did that to me. You just push me down the stairs, please.
Yeah, it's awkward.
How did you guys feel about that? Like that portion of it, of her, like
Just to compound that, like you can tell. I mean, you obviously know if you're watching this movie, like Pearl is Pearl. There's nothing wrong with Pearl,
Yeah.
But there's small clues, even obviously from the very beginning. But the fact that she washes her dad, right, and then she's gonna take a bath, doesn't even turn her dad away, makes her dad watch her take a bath. It's like, okay, she's on a level, she's on a level, and then we're here for the ride,
Yeah, I mean, I think that almost it goes to this level of like she always wants an audience. She really like thinks she's a fucking star in every way, and it's like, dude, no, not with your dad, not with your dad. I will say for the scarecrow scene, I when I first watched this in the theaters, like I was just like, this is the thing that like people are gonna like hold on to. I feel like either in a very positive or negative light, probably more negative, but I think it definitely like enhances that repression piece of Pearl, where it's very natural to have sexual feelings, but I think just this time period and obviously her state of mind, it's probably intensified because there's definitely a link of like violence and sex, and that's definitely crossing over for her. And so I just think that whole sequence kind of really like is a good metaphor or whatever for all that.
Talking about the repression, even when the projectionist like shows her the stag movie, she's not outwardly into it. She's is this like you could tell she thinks she's being tested, so like she doesn't react to it. She's like, okay, well, that's cool, so there's that too. It's clearly the times,
Mm-hmm.
Which that's actually a good scene to bring up is her meeting the film projectionist and then her coming back to him and him showing her that and basically going, I would like to see you in one of these, I would watch it. And the eventual relationship of them where she ends up coming back after the fight with her mom and sleeping with him, and then she brings him back to that house. It's one of the most awkward fucking moments for that man of having to go in that house, see the invalid father, and then go up where she tries to have sex with him upstairs, and he keeps hearing shit, and he's very uncomfortable at this point. Goes back downstairs and is starting to get freaked out by everything. How do you guys feel about the relationship with her and the progression of that whole like relationship between those two?
You get kind of clues when he's talking about himself that he's done this before.
Yes.
Like he goes from town to town, and he's got the skill of being a projectionist, and he's probably pulled the same deal with a dozen other girls in a dozen other cities. He just was in the wrong place at the wrong time in this little town in Texas. So that's what happened to this guy. But yeah, the whole scene when it just like absolutely falls apart, because it goes from like 0 to 60 when they're in the barn, like, and he's like trying his best to like tap dance his way out of it, but it's already too late, which is like the theme of Pearl.
Yeah,
it's already too late.
Yeah. I love the conversation. I believe it's when they're still like at where he like lives, and she kind of makes like an offhand comment like, only if they would die, referring to her parents, and he's like, excuse me. So like again, there's just like there's red flags like increasing, as he first meets her to like that scene in the barn, which I do think that's probably one of the best scenes in the movie, because it's like, oh shit, she's very unhinged here. And like just some of the stuff that she says to him, like, why'd you go cold on me? And like like very like confrontational. It's like, oh god. And then
on rewatch, she was willing to ride her bike home. If they're willing to ride their bike home, let them ride their bike home. You don't need to give them a ride. You don't always need to be a gentleman. She was willing to ride her bike home.
I will say, like, the way that the projectionist looks compared to Howard, her husband, is like really interesting to me, because the projectionist is like obviously a very attractive, like hunky dude, and then like Howard looks like a child. It's true. So it is kind of an interesting, like, like I feel like he's just like a symbol of like lust, I guess is what I'm getting at, in a way, because he seems very appealing to her, initially.
Speaking of that farm sequence, it does like I love that Ty West, knowing that people more than likely have seen X at this point, and knowing what happens in that barn in X, that he builds that tension of that scene of going, is she gonna do something in that barn to him at that moment, like she did in X? And I love that it just jumps back to him going to the car, and then it turns the camera to the barn, and she's not there anymore. And then you hear her, and then the fucking pitchfork just goes driving right into him. He just hits the gas after he's gone. It just fucking drives.
Yeah. And if you think about how much time passes from the end of Pearl to the beginning of X, I want to drag that pond. I want to see.
Oh, yeah. You got the little psycho moment there where she's just throwing everyone in the pond. She doesn't give a shit for her.
Those alligators are well fed.
Yeah.
Which I will say, one of the funny, it's probably my favorite line in the movie, to be honest, when she pushes him later into the pond, where she's like, "Au revoir, poor Johnny." It's like, oh my god. It's like so cute. It's amazing.
Speaking of the pond, we got to talk about her bringing her father to the edge there and just going, "I don't want to leave you here trapped like I feel, so I'm gonna let this fucking alligator eat your shit."
What a mercy kill to be ripped apart by an alligator.
It's psycho shit there. Like that's where she's completely unhinged at that point, where she's gonna be pushing her, and her father's shit scared at that point.
All this access to morphine, you feed him to an alligator. And actually, that's the funniest part. Like when she gets his morphine and she just goes to the booth there, she's just like drinking it. I was like, what a time to be alive!
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, they definitely bring back the alligator in great ways. Yeah. Because again, it's that thing of X where you have some amazing kills in X with that alligator, and then you got some more amazing shit with that alligator in this one, where it's more tension built, where he's building the tension off of X and using that to his advantage, because people assume shit's gonna happen, and he just pulls the wool and he doesn't let it. Which I guess another big relationship we got to talk about is the sister-in-law, Mitzi. And that progression from them going to the audition together, and the eventual of her trying not to tell her that she got it. And you, at that point, Pearl was just fucking gone. Like she knows that she got it because of what they said they were looking for, and she's just so pissed off, and all she wants to do is have her admit to it. Which leads to her eventually chasing her ass with the axe down the fucking road.
It's a great scene. The fact that the chase, it's not like a long chase, but the fact that there's just enough tension, and the way that's shot, and actually the way it's physically acted, like it's such a natural, like Pearl catches her so naturally.
Yeah,
like, I really respect that. Like that, it's light stunt work, but it's actually really good stunt choreography. The way that was done, like whoever paced that out was really good at that. So that was good. I respect to the stunt people.
Oh, 100% agree. Melissa, what do you think?
Going back to my Wizard of Oz themes, I would say Misty is like the clearest character in my mind, which is the lion, the cowardly lion, because like she has like the fur. And she gets like nervous before the like audition, and like anyways, that was definitely something that I noticed this time around. But no, I think she's a great character, like a supporting character to Pearl, especially. I guess before I get to there, I mean the audition scene is probably like the highlight of the film, I would say, like because at that point like tension is high, there's a lot riding on this, and I loved the fantasy scene that we got to see during that sequence. And I will say when I first watched it, I think that's kind of, again, a critical thing. I kind of wanted more of these like fantastical scenes, but rewatching it, I like just the one scene. I think it works for the film. But yeah, the epic monologue scene with Misty, is just incredible, and I don't think it would have worked as well if like Misty wasn't as well of a character. I just felt like that worked really well. But yeah, I mean, my jaw was on the floor when I was watching this in the theater for the first time. I was like, holy shit, like it does not cut away from her for like 8 minutes, and she's just like pouring her soul out. It just feels incredibly honest, and yeah, just that repression, the rage, the desperation, all of that just coming to a full front. Yeah.
And she's talking to the dude's sister. Like, you know, it's like pretend I'm my brother. Sure.
Yeah.
Boom. Actually, going back to your Wizard of Oz stuff, I think actually the projectionist is probably the Tin Man. Because, like, you know, he doesn't have a heart at the end of it.
Yeah.
Because that's where he gets stabbed. But also, you know, and just the fact that he works around machinery and stuff like that, I think that's probably that's probably who he would be, then I would say.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's get right into the actual audition of it. What did you guys feel about the progression of her sitting outside with her sister-in-law to her going actually in, also seeing the one woman run out crying, and knowing that it's like, you just know it's not going to end well for her.
Ty West does so many scenes in Pearl, like when it melts into her actually pretending she's performing with like a kick line, like that's a fantastically choreographed scene. Like it's like you kind of figure the way Pearl's mind works, something like that's going to happen, but the way that's just shot and the way she goes and does all the classical like USO stuff, it's really well done.
How about you, Melissa?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit before, but yeah, I mean, it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the film, and I mean, I'm a star. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I love that part.
She completely becomes unhinged at that moment. Like, she's already unhinged before that, but that's where she's no longer her anymore. She is now the psychopath as we know
she's
her.
actively hallucinating her mother as the Trump. So like, clearly, she's done. Yeah.
Which I do love. Like, speaking of like seeing her mother there, I do love that we get the little small moments of like her having to like throw her ass back down the fucking stairs where she's all fucked up already, and then she eventually brings her up to the dinner table with her dead father, because she killed her father as well, and they are now situated around the dinner table with the fucking pig that is being eaten by maggots and shit, and just already halfway eaten. And that's when we get Howard coming home.
Well, before Howard even comes home, the fact when Mitzi's there and she looks, she goes, "Is that our pig?" Not even a red flag, just walks right past it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the ending of it ending with Howard seeing everything, coming home, looking for her, and then running in and seeing this basically insane Texas Chainsaw Massacre like feel of a fucking dinner table?
Like I said, from the end of Pearl to the beginning of X, like clearly Howard doesn't leave. He stands by his woman who killed his sister with an axe. So I'm intrigued at this point. Like what happened after that? Because clearly that the whole closing credits sequence, Howard's standing there looking at her.
Yeah,
because that's his point of view.
Yes.
So I have questions, but it's okay if we don't answer them right away. But I'm very, very intrigued by the middle, if we ever see it.
It's this weird thing where it's like, he's so like, I don't know, messed up from the war that he just didn't even care, or is he just really that loyal of a guy? Like, yeah, like I have a lot of questions to like, yeah, what were these conversations like after he got home? Yeah, we obviously know he does stay, but it's still shocking though, even though it's gonna come, it's still shocking in a way. But I do love, again, going back to my Wizard of Oz thing, I feel like the ending is like, there's no place like home, basically. Like I have to like, or I forget the quote exactly, but it's like, I'm gonna do the best I can with what I have, or whatever. I kind of butchered that, but like it's the same sentiment of like, there's no place like home.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that he does a very quick couple shots of is her chopping up Mitzi's body, including her head, and feeding it to the alligator.
Full screen.
Yes, the split screen of it, which is fucking it's an incredible shot sequence there, and I love that. Again, he did a different tonally horror movie than he did with X, but he still has those very vicious moments throughout this that come at the right moments, and it has those insane kills that we love to see in X.
That poor goose.
Oh yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
yeah.
Wrong place at the wrong time, goose.
Overall, is there anything that we haven't touched upon that you guys would like to maybe bring up?
I think we covered.
I guess the one thing, it's kind of random, but like when she does end up killing her dad, by I believe like suffocating him or like choking him out or whatever.
Yeah.
I do really like it. Kind of like does a close up of like the bird in the cage. So I really like that like artistic choice.
Yes, those Easter eggs are all over this movie. It's great, and it's not even like I don't even feel it's heavy-handed. I feel they're exactly the way it's supposed to be. So it's great.
Yeah, agreed.
So I guess let's get to our actual rankings of this through VHS tapes. I'm gonna say Melissa for last on this. I'll go first. I absolutely love this movie. I think it was a perfect sequel, prequel to X, and I cannot wait for Maxine. So it's a great fucking movie. I gave it 5 VHS tapes. I absolutely love this movie, and rewatching it, still love it just as much as I did the first time, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for these characters. John, how about you?
I'm 4.5. I love this movie too. Really, I'm just really nitpicky and stupid about it. But like it's really just the transition from Pearl to X and X to Pearl bothers me a little bit. So that's why it's 4.5. But aside from that, this is a 5-star movie, but just with minor flaws. That's all it is.
I like it. And Melissa?
I do agree there is minor flaws, but I don't care. I gave it five videotapes. I think Mia Goth is just a revelation, just magnificent in this, and yeah, I'm beyond hyped for Maxine, and I enjoyed it a lot more on a rewatch, and I'm really excited to rewatch X because I still have not rewatched it since my theater experience. So I'm excited to rewatch that and kind of pick up on all the Easter eggs that are in that movie.
I like that. And I have a feeling we're going to get some of those questions answered in Maxine that we've been thinking about. I have a feeling he's going to answer some of those. But yeah, let's move on to the second movie, which is The Sacrament.
Take the camera. I want you to film this. It's important.
It's funny.
Take it. Take it. Take it.
Fix me, Jesus, fix me.
John, how about you give the plot synopsis for The Sacrament?
Sure. If you've had cable in the 2000s, you might know this little channel called Viceland, and Viceland is like this hard-hitting, investigative, like immersive reporting channel. Basically, Ty West must have gotten the rights to basically copy like a Vice news special, and The Sacrament is presented like raw footage from a aborted Vice news special, where a friend of one of the reporters gets contacted by his sister that lives on a religious commune in some undisclosed area, and they're allowing outside visitors, and this is about how that shit goes wrong.
I like it. And let's just get straight into spoiler, because this is a movie that is not necessarily a simple plot, but it basically gets right into it straight away. We arrive on that commune, I guess you would call it, and you have Patrick trying to find his sister, and they come onto this commune, and this commune, you can tell straight off the bat that they're not being 100% honest with the 3 guys, that they have kind of been coached, I guess, in a way of what to say and what not to say to these 3 individuals. And something's up right away when they arrive, and they're already seeing the guns, they're seeing the natives around with actual assault rifles and shit like that they have. So already you can tell that there is tension here, that maybe something else is going on, and you get to them. It definitely has the vibes of a Jonestown cult for sure.
It's clearly like a fictionalized account of Jonestown, all the way down to the way Father looks like Jim Jones, kind of.
Oh yeah, 1000%. And Father he's fucking fantastic in this movie. It is played by Gene Jones, which is fucking amazing.
Funny. Take any closer than that.
Oh my God.
He is fucking incredible in this movie, and especially his speech when they're actually getting him when Sam is actually interviewing him during that sequence, and you get his actual monologue of him explaining what he's doing here and what he's trying to do, and how everyone is just so attached to it. I love the simplicity of this movie, of them it's a simple concept that he just Sam wants to come back, grab his sister, and get the fuck out of there. That's all he really wants to do. He doesn't really trust that this place is the right place for her. And Sam and his buddy Patrick.
Jake's the cameraman and Patrick's the buddy.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. I just love that Patrick. He's a good, like, they always have that part in the found footage movies of why the fuck are you still carrying this camera around when all hell was breaking loose? And I think, again, you will never get an actual legitimate explanation of why these fuckers are still carrying the camera around and having the shit happen. But this movie, I think, kind of does it in a fun way, to where he literally just goes, I just need to have this camera with me this entire time when all hell is breaking loose, and he wants to actually record everything because, like John, you said, this is raw footage, or supposed to be raw footage.
Two things happen. One, when all hell breaks loose, you hear Father say to Patrick's camera, like, he tells one of the guards to pick it up. Like, pick that up. We're going to film this. So the camera switches hands from the protagonist to the antagonist. So that actually is a pretty slick found footage move that you don't see.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I typically don't really like found footage films. Like, I tend to not like them, but I really did like this one because it was so, like, well done with the shots. But at the same time, I kind of was thinking the same thing. I'm like, all right, like, you probably would not be, like, carrying the camera right now. But, like, I didn't really care because I just was so intrigued by the story. This is a movie that, like, I was seriously, like, so engrossed in it, and I feel like I haven't experienced that in a while with a movie. So that was, like, great to have, because I was just like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? Even though you kind of know what's probably gonna happen next, the way that it's filmed, the way that the performances are, and everything, I thought it was really effective and really well done.
How did you guys feel about his sister and the beginning conversations between them, and her wanting to kind of right away just pull a brother away from those two because she's trying to, as we eventually find out, she's trying to get money from her parents by bringing him in? What did you guys feel about the relationship?
They put
Can't get him laid.
Yeah, they put all the puzzle pieces together. Like when you get snippets from each of the interviews where, like, when they talk to the nurse and they're like, wow, you got an aging population here. Like, what's going to happen? Like, how are you going to be able to pay for all this stuff? And she's like, oh no, we all sold all of our houses and that paid for all this. And then, the sisters, like, basically letting on that they're running out of money. So they're going to tap the parents. And like this was all planned, but obviously they didn't anticipate the other stuff that was going to happen, where there were people in the community that are being abused and they're going to rise up.
Melissa, what did you feel about it? How did you feel about it? About
the sister?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought she was definitely one of the standouts. Like, I thought her performance was really good. And I do think it's interesting. We never directly saw it, or it was never said, but it does seem like her and the father, like, she's probably sleeping with the father. Or like, she's,
she lives in that house.
Yeah. So I thought that was, like, an interesting dynamic. And yeah, I mean, she's beyond, like, brainwashed and, like, so invested in this community. And I will say, like, at the very beginning of the film, like, it seemed like they were trying to, like, I don't know, push that maybe this is like a good place. You know, the few interviews that they had at the beginning, but even still with like the guns right away, it's like red flag, and then we kind of like meet the
asking
few
for their passports.
yeah, and like meet the few people that were kind of saying, you know, positive things about this place, but then yeah, just quickly you're like, no, I don't trust any of this. This is not heaven on earth at all. This is not good.
Yeah, it's like I said about another movie I watched today, which I won't talk about that, but like this is one of those movies where like literally, like, first of all, you know it's derivative of Jonestown, so you kind of know it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And like they do like drop little things here and there where you do kind of get that false sense of security. Like, all right, maybe I mean I can kind of sympathize with the guy because he's so slick and he says all the right stuff, and they are so these people do seem to be having a good time. Full on revival, gospel singing, you know, bands are playing, and you're like, all right, but you're really just being pushed towards the edge of the cliff the entire time, and it's whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, and it honestly really gave me Midsummer vibes in that way.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like it's like when you first arrive, it's like, man, like they all seem so nice, and like, you know, they're giving me this mushroom tea. Like, I don't know, everything seems pretty cool, and then it's like, oh shit, maybe not.
And the sister even like orchestrated like her brother to have a threesome to like get him to stay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, father says any means necessary.
And they're even calling it out too while that's like that conversation is happening, going, what the fuck?
That's not very religious. Is that in the Bible?
And I do love that they have like what we really don't get with a lot of found footage movies is we don't get a lot of development between like the main people, even behind the camera and in front of it. And in this one, you have like Jake playing basketball with them, and you can see that they all have the little. You have like Sam and his wife being pregnant at home, and him wanting to get back as soon as he can, trying to get on the phone, but there's no reception and stuff like that. So you get the little bits and pieces of real three-dimensional characters here, which you don't get to really see a lot in the found footage genre. They usually just go straight into it and they go, we kind of don't really care about, you don't need to know the backstory of these guys. You just want to jump right into it. But this one, they give you little bits and pieces throughout of going, these guys have their own issues at home. They have their own things going on, and you can see why they're doing what they're doing and why they want to get the fuck out, including like that, the interview sequence where the moment that they're setting it up and Sam notices that all the chairs are around, he goes, so this is going to be in front of everybody. And right then and there, he knows that this is going to be a fucked up interview, that he's not going to get what he wants out of it, because he knows he's being set up here to basically have father use the commune to his advantage to kind of knock Sam off of his game, which he kind of does, because he even says, I didn't even get through a lot of questions. Like, he didn't answer anything. And that's what those type of people do. Like John said, he's very slick at how he talks and what he says. He's very specific of how he presents things, what he says, and he presents things of not answering the questions that he needs to answer. Kind of like doing like the Frost Nixon interviews, where he's answering questions, but he's not answering them the way that you actually answer the questions. He's answering it in the way of just going, I'm going to give you information, not the information you want.
Yeah, father orchestrates the interview to where like every answer he gives is like he's trying to, that he's getting the crowd behind his answers. So like he's created this scenario where Sam is literally powerless to contradict him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has to go along with everything, because you legitimately have 100 people 5 feet away who are like, yeah, like everything the guy says. So you can't. Like he literally like just, you know, castrates him and like takes away his ability to be an interviewer. So yeah,
I mean, it's the power of manipulation, like just that little sliver of that interview, and you're just like, okay, I understand why you have all these people behind you now, because you just annihilated me in this interview.
Yeah, like the power he has over the people, like, and you know, when the film finally, like, you know, the third act gets there, and just how quickly they are willing to do whatever he says, no matter what he says, no matter how crazy it is, they just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to the end of the interview where everyone kind of leaves, but then Savannah, the little mute child, very sweet child, throws Sam the note and runs away, and you see that it says, help us. And that's when you've already got like we've said, you have little bits and pieces that you know something's wrong here. Something is up with these people. And that's when the moment that you go, yeah, some of these people are actually prisoners here and they actually want to leave. And which brings us to that next day where they're going to use their escape of the helicopter to try to get anybody that wants to go to leave, which you find out that even the guy in the helicopter is telling them, I can only take you guys. I am not allowed to take anybody else. So you then and there, you know that some of these people, not all of them, because some of them are 100% for our father and for the cause, but a couple of them feel like they're trapped and they're prisoners at this point. They just want to fucking leave. They want to go back to their actual lives. They don't want to be here anymore. What did you guys feel about that reveal and the upcoming shitstorm that happens from that?
Yeah, I mean, again, this whole movie, it's like you kind of know what's gonna happen, but I still found myself being like shocked, and that was definitely like one of the scenes where I was like, holy shit, like I was not anticipating like all of them just kind of like rioting and like having their suitcases ready to go and like saying, hey, I want to riot out of here too. And I was like, oh shit, okay, like they really, like, things are not going as well as they portrayed it to be. So I thought the reveal of like just kind of like the intensity of the whole population kind of like ready to hop on that helicopter was pretty intense.
And that kind of leads to like the secondary reveal that this was always a suicide cult, because literally when you hear Father's reasoning for everything, he's like, well, if they leave, they're going to tell about the people here. And even if we stop them from leaving, they're going to send people after them and they're just going to kill us with guns. So we might as well kill ourselves. Yeah. And everyone's like, this guy makes a lot of sense. Glug, 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 choke, 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 die. And that's it. And then that's the whole rest of the movie, which is freaking berserk.
Yeah, that in one of the most brutal sequences of them, like some of them drinking it willingly, and then others either being forced to or kind of offhandedly just not wanting to do it, but still doing it.
Putting the liquid syringes in the baby's mouth.
Yeah,
they go hard.
That was a lot. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, they're giving death punch by syringe to a baby right now. What am I watching?
Like and then you see he even presents it as you're just gonna drink it and you're basically gonna fall asleep and you're gonna be gone. But then you see the aftermath of it and you see them like foaming at the mouth and like being fucked up because of this. And then you have like Mom and Savannah not necessarily hiding in a way, but just in the room, and her mom knows this is the end and she doesn't see any way out, which brings to another brutal sequence of her slitting her own daughter's throat and having the guys come in and shoot her and probably shoot the daughter one more time just to make sure that she's dead, because there are 2 shots that guy does. Yeah. So I'm assuming he shoots her in the head and then shoots the daughter one more time. It's very brutal, very in your fucking face, and the whole time it's Patrick underneath the bed, and he's telling him to hide.
Jake's under the bed.
Jake, I'm sorry, yeah, I keep fucking mixing their names up. Yes, Jake is under the bed, and he's like pulling the camera when he gets out of the bed. You don't get to see, like, you see the slit throat, and then you see it brought back to them, but then when he gets up, you see the reveal of both of them just lying there in a pool of blood. Very fucking vicious.
And then like I think the craziest part is like when you do get back to where Patrick is and his sister kills him. Like,
yeah,
it's like, boom.
Oh,
and like, yeah. She tries to get him to drink and he's like, no, what are you crazy? No. And then she injects him with it against his will. And that's actually like a really well acted scene, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them sell it. And those are both like, if you know the people that are in this movie, it's all like the Ty West, Adam Wingard crew of people that are in every single movie. It's the people from Your Next, VHS. It's the same people, and like they don't get a lot of credit as being like good actors. But the scene with Kentucky Adler and Amy Seimetz, like where he dies, is really, really good.
Yeah, because he's basically like he's pleading with her, like, "What is that? What is that? I don't want to die." He even says it multiple times. I don't want to die, and it's just that slow. What she injected him with is going to kill this guy, and he knows it at that point, and he's just
she knows.
Yeah, oh yeah, and she's just hugging him, just telling him, just basically, just go to sleep. Just
And she's so far gone, she chooses to kill herself in literally the most painful way possible that you can kill yourself,
yeah.
which is like, oh, crazy.
We bring in the other sequence that we just talked about in Pearl of someone being lit on fire, and she lights her fucking self on fire.
And there's some through lines, like there's desperation, people lighting on fire, horror in the daylight. Yeah.
Melissa, what did you feel about the sister and brother?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that was probably one of the best scenes in the movie, just because I do think it was very well acted and well done. And again, with the found footage kind of way of filming in this, like I just thought it was very like I just thought it was very effective and well done with like that, like she chose to film that, which is like okay. But yeah, it was so, I guess, like all the kind of kill scenes that we just talked about, like the Savannah and her mom, and then the brother and sister, and then we have one a little bit later that we haven't talked about yet. I think even though you like knew it was coming, I was so shocked by like how brutal it was. But I also just thought it was really well done at the end of the day, for all these kills.
Yeah.
Which we can jump over to then. We jump over to Jake running over to like I guess father's living quarters / like cabin, and Sam is tied up, and father's just sitting there, and they get in that conversation, and father's just telling him that this is,
their fault.
Yeah, this is their fault. It's on them. And then he blows his fucking brains out.
And like, I want to give father this much credit. He only killed himself. Like he could have killed him.
No, he could have 100% killed both of them.
Yeah.
But he killed himself, which is like looking at that scene going into it, you think that he's going to shoot Sam in the face. That maybe Jake is going to get away, but you think that Sam's gone. Yeah. Like at that point, that Sam's going to get shot right there. And then maybe Jake's going to get away. But no, he just turns the gun on himself and blows his fucking brains out. And they're able to get the fuck out of there. Melissa, what did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean,
in the conversation.
Again, I want to know like how they were able to like do it all, because it looks so realistic. And yeah, I haven't really talked about it yet, but like I definitely think the father character was by far like the standout in regards to performances. Like just the look of him, the way he talks, his presence, just all of it works so well. And yeah, that ending speech, it's like holy shit. Okay, that's a way to go out, I guess.
Yeah, they did the head scene. They watched Beware Children at Play, and they just copied what we're gonna do it just like that.
Which then they're able to escape. They get on the helicopter, and then it cuts away to where it says 167 people died during that, and that is fucking insane that there was that many people that were not only entranced by father and all the bullshit that entitled with that, but it was also the people hunting the people down that weren't wanting to do that and either shooting them or injecting them, what you will, of killing them. Yeah. I think it was the best way to end that movie is just cutting it the moment they're on that helicopter and it goes away, and you just feel like that was the ending of that specific episode of how they would have ended, how they would have cut to Vice to probably them being interviewed about it, like doing the last interview of it, if it was actually an actual Vice episode. What did you guys feel of the tail end of the thing after father dies?
I think I will. Go ahead, Melissa. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I thought it was really intense when it was like those two guys that had like the machine guns, kind of like hunting and shooting everyone down, and then like plot twist, one of them like shoots the other one. Like that was like really like oh shit. Yeah, and he was just like, "Get out of here! I'm burning this place down." I was like, "That like good for that guy, I guess."
Thank you, sir.
I don't know. But I loved that, but also it was like that another kind of shocking thing. I was not expecting that at all to happen in that way.
Yeah, I would say like, and I mean, obviously found footage movies, they can go across every subgenre. You can have vampires or zombies or whatever you want. But when you do like a real life found footage movie, I think the crowning achievement of a found footage movie is like, if I could find a sucker and pass this movie off like this shit really happened, it's a good found footage movie. I think I can do that to like a dumbass and make them think this is real. So that's the best compliment I can give The Sacrament.
I like that. I think that's a great explanation for this movie, is that you can kind of pawn it off on people who may look at those films and going, is this real? Did this really happen? And that this one could potentially be an actual documentary feel to it. I think it works really well with that regard. Is there anything that we haven't really touched on with this that you guys would like to bring up?
I'm good.
That's it.
Perfect. Let's get to the reviews. Let's start with Melissa this time. Melissa, what did you give The Sacrament 0 out of 5 VHS tapes?
I gave it 4 VHS tapes. I will forever be scarred by that design and cup. If I ever were to see that in my real life, I will be terrified and I will not want to drink it, whatever isn't in it. No, I thought the movie was really great. Like, I thought it was very effective. Like John was saying, like there is like this realistic feel to it, and just like the brutality of it all. Like, I think kind of emphasizes that even more. Performances were great. All the camera work was great, even though it seemed a little unbelievable at times. But no, I really enjoyed this a lot.
I like that. And John?
I am also a 4 videotapes fella today. It's a great movie, right? But we're talking, why is it 4 out of 5? Why should it be 5 out of 5, John? Great question, John. It's just early Ty West. Obviously, like, it's gonna have. It's not like it's poorly acted. It's not like it's poorly shot. It's not like it's poorly anything. But it does suffer from a little bit of the low budget feel. And that's about it. That's only really criticism I have of it. And it's that crew. Like, when you see that crew of people, when you see like AJ Bowen and Joe Swanberg and everybody show up, Oscars are not going to be rained down on this movie. Like, you know what you're getting. These guys are really good actors, or it feels like good acting, because they're in every freaking movie together. So, like, that's why it's 4 out of 5.
Do not actually agree with the reasoning behind that, for sure. I think this is definitely one of the better found footage movies, but I do think it does suffer from the budget and some of the acting. But overall, I also did give it 4 VHS tapes. So I think this might be the first time that we all have the same rating of a movie, which is awesome. It actually happened. We all landed on the same fucking rating. It was great shit. This was definitely a positive episode this time around. We all enjoyed. There's a great double feature. We all enjoyed this shit, which is awesome. Which brings us to next week. Next week, this next week, there's nothing really big coming out horror-wise in the theater, so we're changing it up a little bit, and we're going to be doing a double feature of Green Room and Soft and Quiet. John, you've seen Soft and Quiet.
I've seen both these movies, and what isn't more American than neo-Nazis? So next week, it's a neo-Nazi week on Why We Love Horror. So come on in, watch some neo-Nazi movies with us.
The fun times will be had on this week. Melissa, are you excited about this next week?
Aboard, poor Johnny.
That'll be it for us. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe as usual. Thursday night is going to be the set list as usual. Friday is going to be a house party, so make sure to check that out. And yeah, we will see you all next week on Why We Love Horror.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly. Hurry back. Be sure to bring your death certificate.